Verse 4, it says, "So Abram went forth as Yahweh had spoken to him, and Lot went with him." There's a debate here where people ask, was it right or wrong for Abram to bring Lot with him? And Lot, we were introduced to him in last week's section, is basically Abram's nephew from his deceased brother. You don't have to have an answer here. I don't know if I have an answer here. I lean towards one direction, but what do you think? Was it wrong?
Yeah, I don't think we can say definitively that it's a bad thing just because the text doesn't say that. It doesn't go out of its way to condemn Abram for doing that. But we do see later on that there is going to be like issues that are caused from this. In fact, really a lot of the plot of the next like 2 chapters is a result of Lot going with Abram because of what happens with Lot. And then even next week too, same thing. We'll see events that would not happen otherwise. But whether or not that means it's a bad thing is a different thing entirely.
I've heard people argue precisely that. They say, look at how much problems came because Lot went with. So obviously this is an indictment against Abram bringing Lot. And I don't know, that there is a possibility that that's the case. But to me, the text says, so Abram went forth as Yahweh had spoken to him. And then it says, and Lot went with him, to where it seems like the author is giving us like the stamp of approval. Abram did exactly like God said, but Lot went with. Like it's just like a detail added on there. But I guess you could argue the opposite, to where it's like, yeah, he did all this. And then like a little foreboding note, and Lot went with. To where I could see it being read both ways. The main thing that makes me push back against this being incorrect is the fact that we know how God cares for other people. It seems like Abram embraced the heart of God's command. He left everything else, but Lot's father is dead, and it seems like at this point in the story, Lot is functioning as almost like an adopted son to Abram. In which case, it doesn't seem to me, given the rest of scripture, that God would be asking Abram to abandon Lot. Just given the relationship, to where I think that Lot kind of fits into the category of like, well, no, you can bring him with. But I could see people going both ways with it, because technically, according to the letter of the command, Abram did not listen. Technically, Lot is a member of the father's house. I don't fully know. I don't have an answer there. If it was incorrect for him to take Lot, I think the text would be probably a little bit more explicit.
Later on, Abram will do things that are not really, like they're kind of just like not good, but like the text will call him out for it. And so the text isn't afraid to call him out for doing bad things or just like disobeying or not listening. Whereas this early on, I feel like it would say something.
Like you said, the text is not afraid to call Abram out. It is not presenting him like a perfect person to where it's like everything he does is great, but you would expect it to call it out if it were inherently problematic. But like I said, I could see people arguing both ways. I don't have a firm answer there. I just figured we'd address it because it literally is in the verse immediately following where God's like, leave everything. And it's like, he brought Lot. So I could see it going both ways.